Hey parents, how do you make smarter choices for your kids' college today? That's where Sally can help. With Sally, you can find scholarships, funding options, tools, and guidance all in one place. And if you need a loan, Sally has options for different families and different situations. College is only worth it if you do it right. So don't just help your kid go. Help them go smarter. Sally.com/GoParents.
The Hulu original series, Furious, is coming to Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus July 27th.
There are 3 victims we know of. The suspect is female, white, late 20s.
Female serial killer.
Kill for power, control. I believe there's a deeper motivation here.
You have no idea who you're dealing with, and you are going to end up dead.
I've been waiting for you.
Watch the Hulu original series, Furious, on July 27th. Streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
Hi, I'm Jamie, host of Murderish, the podcast. On Murderish, I give you a 3D look at gripping murder cases. Just the facts, no banter. By the end of each episode, you'll know who was involved, details of the crime, and what went down at trial. Also featured on Murderish is my own personal story about the time a man followed me home at night and I found him in my bedroom. Listening to this podcast doesn't make you a murderer. It just means you're murder-ish. Listen to Murderish on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Murder Diaries. I'm Paige.
And I'm Natalie.
Heads up for our listeners. We are now posting, by the way, full-length video episodes of docu-files on YouTube. So make sure you head over to YouTube at the Murder Diaries podcast and check us out there too. In early September of 2025, police were called to an impound lot in Hollywood, California. The staff reported a horrible stench coming from a black Tesla that had been on the lot for 3 days. When officers opened the front trunk of the Tesla, they found the decomposing, dismembered remains of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Shortly after, investigators learned that the Tesla belonged to 20-year-old singer David Anthony Burke, aka David. The investigation told the story of a teenage girl who had been groomed, assaulted, and murdered before she even had the chance to grow up. Now, the community and the world await justice for Celeste. This is her story.
Used to think it's in my head, but I'm walking with the dead.
Celeste Abigail Rivas Hernandez was born on September 7th, 2010, to parents Mercedes and Jesus Rivas Hernandez. Celeste was one of 3 children. She had a brother named Matthew and a sister named Jennifer. Her parents described her as a beautiful, strong girl who loved to sing and dance. Celeste was from a city called Lake Elsinore, which is part of Southern California's Inland Empire. She was well known in her neighborhood, and those that knew her said that she was a regular at the corner store just down the street from her home. One neighbor, named Kaylee, said that she first saw Celeste in 2023. She immediately stood out to her. She told CNN, "I'm like, oh, look at that girl. She had big, beautiful curls. That's a beautiful little girl." Celeste loved Hello Kitty, to snack on Takis and soda. The neighbor that owned that nearby corner convenience store said that he felt like he'd known her forever. When it was rainy or cold out, he'd make hot chocolate for his daughter, Celeste, and the other kids waiting outside for the school bus. Now, Celeste's family has largely stayed out of the public eye as much as possible, so there really isn't a lot of public information about her. However, her family has been clear in their limited communication with the press that Celeste was and is an important part of their family, and that she was a beautiful soul unlike any other.
On September 8th, 2025, law enforcement was called to respond to a tow lot in Hollywood, California. A black Tesla had been towed from the upscale Bird Streets neighborhood in the Hollywood Hills and parked in the impound lot on the roof of their parking deck. Residents in the neighborhood had complained several times about the Tesla being parked and seemingly abandoned. Parking officers noted the vehicle on August 27th, then left a citation on the vehicle on September 3rd. The Tesla was impounded on the 5th. Officers responded to the lot after staff called, reporting a horrible smell coming from the vehicle. When officers opened the vehicle's front trunk, they found bags filled with decomposing human remains, including a human head, torso, and several limbs. The ring and pinky fingers on the left hand had been removed. By the following day, September 9th, investigators had discovered that the Tesla was registered to a popular TikTok singer, 21-year-old David Anthony Burke, who was known to fans as David. Investigators quickly got in touch with David, who was out on tour at the time. On the evening that the remains were discovered, he was performing in Minneapolis. A spokesperson for David released a statement saying, "David has been informed about what's happened, and although he is still out on tour, he is fully cooperating with the authorities." Police were able to determine that the remains belonged to a female, but because of the advanced level of decomposition, it would take time to fully identify who they belonged to. On September 14th, 6 days after the remains were discovered, officials released a statement. They'd identified the remains through dental records as belonging to 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Her body was found on the day after what would have been her 15th birthday. Celeste's family was devastated. The entire community of Lake Elsinore was heartbroken to learn that Celeste was dead and that someone had done this to her. Just days after Celeste's body was positively identified, a vigil was held for her in Lake Elsinore. One resident said that they'd known Celeste for a while, that they'd used to see her around the neighborhood. They told NBC Los Angeles, "My nephew went to school with her since kindergarten, and I just want to say, if it was my daughter, I wouldn't want her to be forgotten. I just want justice for this little girl because whatever happened to her wasn't just an accident. I don't want her forgotten." People in the community, and even those who were just learning about Celeste's death, agreed with that resident's sentiment. This was no accident. Whatever had happened to Celeste was an intentional act. And all of the evidence being gathered seemed to point to one person.
A little context about David. He's a singer-songwriter that was born in Queens, New York, and raised in Houston. In 2021, he began creating Fortnite gaming montages on TikTok. Due to copyright laws, he struggled with finding music to use on those montages, so he began creating his own. Eventually, he began releasing his own songs to SoundCloud. His first single, eerily titled Romantic Homicide, was released July of 2022. It went viral on TikTok. It made it to number 33 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart as well. In September of 2022, a few months later, David was signed by Darkroom and Interscope Records. Over the next few years, David released 2 EPs and even performed as an opening act for SZA. In 2025, David performed at Coachella, and not for nothing, he ended up face planting when he tried to do a backflip on stage. By November of 2025, he had over 3.6 million followers on TikTok and was 3 months into his own tour, Withered. So how did David meet Celeste? Well, the two first connected in January of 2022 over social media. At the time, he was 17 and she was only 11. In November of 2023, David had groomed Celeste to the point where the two began a sexual relationship. She was just 13. In early February of the next year, 2024, Celeste's family reported her missing to the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. During the investigation, deputies found David's phone number in Celeste's phone records. They contacted him on February 17th, 2024. He said he hadn't spoken to Celeste since the 13th or 14th, and that he had no idea that she was a minor or that she was missing. That same night, LA County Sheriff deputies paid David a visit at his Hollywood home that he was renting. They wanted to conduct a welfare check. They told him the same thing that Riverside deputies had. Celeste was missing, and that she was a runaway, and she was only 13 years old. 2 days later, on February 19th, 2024, Celeste returned to her family home in Lake Elsinore. Despite being told by at least 2 different law enforcement agencies that Celeste was a child, a minor, David continued to pursue the relationship with her. Celeste's parents took her cell phone away. Prosecutors later learned that when David found this out, he drove down to Lake Elsinore and paid one of Celeste's middle school classmates $1,000 to give her a cell phone so he could communicate with her. In April of that same year, Celeste's family reported her missing again. They said that she was last seen on April 5th. Her brother Matthew told NBC LA that just before Celeste disappeared, she was going to see a movie with David. Matthew also said The family knew Celeste was friends with the singer, but it's unclear if they knew exactly what kind of relationship they had. Of course, at that time, Celeste was once again classified as a runaway. KCRA News in Sacramento reported that a few months earlier, in January of 2024, Celeste appeared in a public Twitch livestream with David. Shortly after that, David was photographed getting out of a black Tesla near Celeste's home. Fast forward a few more months, in June of 2024, photos circulated of Celeste backstage at one of David's shows. Investigators were finally learning that throughout the spring and summer of 2024, Celeste would spend weekends at David's home and travel with him to Las Vegas, London, Texas. She even met his family. In a later court briefing from the prosecution, there was clearly no question that the two were having a sexual relationship. It's really important to note here that at the ages of 11 to 13, Celeste was a minor and under the age of consent, so a 13-year-old cannot consent to said sexual relationship. The prosecution is quoted saying text exchanges between the victim and the defendant contain references to sex, pregnancy, abortion, and use of Plan B emergency contraceptive. There are also explicit photographs documenting and corroborating their sexual relationship. Through court documents, NBCLA learned that it's believed the two ended their relationship in November of 2024, but they went on to say that they continued to communicate, and text messages were suggesting that the two continued to have sexual relations. In March of 2025, Celeste sent David a text message saying, "All we do is have sex and just hang out, man. I want more than that for myself." The next month, on April 22nd, 2025, text messages showed that the two had a pretty significant argument. Celeste didn't like that David was having relationships with other women. She was threatening to go public with the information about their relationship, and she knew that that would definitely end his career and most likely send him to jail. The following day, April 23rd, 2025, was the last day there was any activity on Celeste's phone. Investigators believed that this was the day that 14-year-old Celeste was murdered.
I genuinely wish Shopify had existed, or at least that we'd thought to use it, when we first started the Murder Diaries. We were so focused on making a podcast that the idea of having an actual storefront felt aspirational, like something future us would deal with after we figured out microphones that didn't pick up our stomachs growling. But if you've been sitting on a business idea, or you've already got one and you're duct taping everything together, Shopify makes it ridiculously easy to get started. Everything you need to start selling is there from day one. If you're selling merch, art, candles, homemade hot sauce, whatever your thing is, your Shopify storefront gives people one polished place to actually find you and buy from you. And when someone's ready to check out, Shopify Checkout helps more customers actually finish their purchase instead of getting distracted by a text message, an existential crisis, or the internet doing what the internet does. If they come back later, their information is already saved, so it's basically one tap and done. The nice thing is that Shopify takes care of the setup and checkout, so you're not spending your weekends yelling at your laptop. Trust me, been there. You actually get to focus on growing your business instead of constantly fixing it. With Shopify, nothing stands between your idea and a real business, so go make one. Start your free trial at shopify.com/murderdiaries. Start your free trial at shopify.com/murderdiaries. You heard that right. Start your free trial at shopify.com/murderdiaries. A few days after Celeste's remains were identified, police searched the Hollywood Hills rental home that David had been living in before he went on tour. Law enforcement told the media at the time that they were searching for digital devices that could have had recordings connecting Celeste to the location. On September 19th, 2025, David's tour was canceled. Then on September 24th, Celeste's family obtained custody of her body and began planning a memorial service for her. By mid-November of that same year, following months of suspicion and rumors, law enforcement officially named David as a suspect in the murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. They said they believed Celeste had been murdered in the spring of 2025, and that they believed it was possible that David had help with dismembering her body. Later that month, the LA County Medical Examiner announced that they received a court order to seal the information regarding Celeste and the investigation. This included the time of death, cause, and manner of death. ABC 30 reported that the first 3 secretive grand juries look at the case, according to prosecutors. They were investigative grand juries to help compel testimony and not to gain indictments. Though the specific content of these grand juries remains unavailable to the public, several people close to David were subpoenaed to testify. This included close friend Neo Langston, Robert Morgenroth, the general manager of Mogul Vision record label and tour manager, and several members of David's family, including his parents and brother. Rumors continued to circulate through the media that David was the main suspect in Celeste's murder. In December of 2025, the second grand jury was convened to look at the case. Then in February of 2026, the third and last grand jury was convened. By April 16, 2026, David was arrested on a probable cause warrant in connection with Celeste's murder and held without bail. Shortly after David's arrest, his legal team released a statement reading, "Let us be clear. The actual evidence in this case will show that David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and he was not the cause of her death. There has been no indictment returned by any grand jury in this case, and no criminal complaint filed. David has only been detained under suspicion." However, 4 days after that statement, the LA County District Attorney Nathan Hodgman announced that they were charging David with first-degree murder, including special circumstances allegations. He was also charged with the count of continuous sexual abuse of a child under the age of 14 and unlawful mutilation of human remains. And in a move that surprised no one, he pleaded not guilty. The DA announced what they believed was the motive for the murder in the following statement. Celeste was just a child, under 14 years old, when David Burke allegedly engaged in repeated, lewd, and lascivious sexual relations with her. But Burke's actions did not allegedly stop there. When she threatened to expose his criminal conduct and devastate his musical career, Burke allegedly murdered her, cut up her body, and stuffed her body in 2 bags that were placed in the front trunk of his car. There, the dismembered body sat for over 4 months, decomposing until it was found at a tow yard on September 8, 2025. This horrific and gruesome murder, committed by the charged sexual predator, is shocking and appalling. To Celeste's loved ones, we will get the justice you seek and deserve, end quote.
Celeste's family had been quiet, keeping themselves out of the public eye as law enforcement continued to investigate Celeste's murder. They released their first public statement through their attorney on April 21st, 2026, less than a week after David was charged. The statement read, "We would like to thank the LAPD and the District Attorney's Office for their hard work. We would also like to thank the people of Lake Elsinore for all their support. Celeste was a beautiful, strong girl who loved to sing and dance. Every Friday night was movie night, and we spent wonderful times together. We love her very much, and she always told us that she loved us. We miss her deeply. All we want is justice for Celeste." One of the neighbors who had a daughter the same age said, "Hollywood will always entice kids. Getting to meet a celebrity or doing something out of the norm is cool for any young teen. Like Elsinore is small. It's kind of quiet. It's not like hustle and bustle." That same neighbor explained that just because Celeste got involved in a bad situation didn't mean she was a troubled girl, telling KCRA News, "I don't want her remembered as a rebellious kid or a runaway. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. She was a young girl just trying to figure out life, and she doesn't get to grow up. She doesn't get to get married or have any children because someone took that away from her." We at the Murder Diaries couldn't agree more, and her friends, they also felt the same way. One neighbor, whose daughter was good friends with Celeste, said that they talk about Celeste often. Quote, "Her friends are very protective of Celeste and her name because she's not here to defend herself."
On April 22nd, 2026, the LA County Medical Examiner finally released Celeste's cause of death. She had died as a result of multiple penetrating injuries, indicating that she'd been stabbed to death. They noted a stab wound on her right abdomen with an injury to her liver, and another stab wound on her left chest. The ME confirmed that Celeste's body had been in an advanced state of decomposition and confirmed that her body had been dismembered into several different parts. In the areas where the body had been dismembered, they found multiple fragments of blue plastic material embedded in the cut surfaces. The tox screen showed presumptive positives for benzodiazepines and methamphetamine MDMA in Celeste's system. In addition to releasing the findings, the chief ME expressed his frustration at how long his office had to wait before releasing the findings, saying, "After several months, I'm grateful that this information can now be released, not only to the public, but also to the grieving family enduring loss. It's unfathomable that they have had to wait this long to learn what happened to their daughter." Celeste's family released another statement after the ME's findings became public. The Rivas Hernandez family is absolutely devastated by the findings contained in the medical examiner's report involving the horrible and gruesome death of their beloved daughter. These findings have caused profound emotional pain for the family. They respectfully ask for privacy, understanding, and patience as they process this information. Jesus and Mercedes will not attend David Anthony Burke's hearing tomorrow. The Rivas Hernandez family sincerely appreciates the community's support and concern.
About a week later, David appeared before a judge in LA. Court filings from the appearance share information that the prosecution planned on using as evidence. They alleged that on April 23, 2025, David sent an Uber to pick up Celeste from her home in Lake Elsinore at 8:40 p.m. The Uber then dropped her off at his home in the Hollywood Hills just after 10 p.m. The filings literally say, knowing he had to silence the victim before she ruined his music career as she had threatened, very soon after her arrival to his home, the defendant stabbed the victim to death multiple times and stood by while she bled out. What's more is David reportedly texted Celeste's phone several times around 10:30 asking where she was, but prosecutors alleged in these filings that she was already dead by this time, that David was doing this to cover up what he had done. At 11:30, David Lee allegedly leaves his house and continues to call and text Celeste's phone. He then drove on the 101 freeway to an area in Santa Barbara County, then returned home early morning on April 24th. A radio interview to promote his new album then followed. 2 more times that day, David texts Celeste and never attempts to contact her again after that. David allegedly then returns to the same area he was previously at in Santa Barbara County on May 8th and May 31st. Also in this same area, in January of 2025, a California transit worker found Celeste's discarded passport card. A few days later, David ordered a shovel from Home Depot that was delivered to his home through Postmates. Another week later, he ordered 2 chainsaws from Amazon. 4 days after that, he ordered a body bag, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a blue inflatable pool, also from Amazon. The blue pieces of plastic found in the cut wounds on Celeste's body were believed to come from this inflatable pool. With all the above, it's alleged that David dismembered Celeste's body in the inflatable pool. On July 7th, he makes another order from Amazon for a burn cage. During one of the search warrants executed at David's rental home, investigators found the inflatable pool with multiple linear cuts in the plastic. DNA taken from the cuts matched Celeste's DNA profile. Prosecutors alleged that David intentionally cut off Celeste's left ring and pinky fingers because her ring finger had a tattoo of his name on it. Now, David was the last person to have been seen driving the black Tesla that Celeste's remains were found inside of in September of 2025. He was seen driving that vehicle on July 29th, 2025, just before his LA tour. The court briefs also read, for several weeks or possible months, defendant left the victim's body to decompose inside of his Tesla. He lied to friends, business associates, and others who noticed the strong smell of decay in and around his home and vehicle. Before leaving on his concert tour at the end of July, he parked his Tesla on the street around the corner from his home.
David's defense team requested that the judge seal the evidentiary filing, arguing that it was one-sided and replete with hearsay. They said that it would taint the future jury pool. The judge denied this request, however, agreed to keep other pieces of evidence sealed from being released to the public. One former federal prosecutor, Nima Rahmani, believes that David's defense team will argue that Celeste died of an accidental drug overdose and that David panicked, then dismembered her body and hid it. Rahmani told ABC, if you're looking at the 3 sets of charges, the mutilation of a corpse is the least serious. So if they can somehow fall on that and avoid either the sex crimes or the murder itself, that would be a huge win for the defense. After the court appearance, the Los Angeles police chief, Jim McDonnell, discussed the added pressure of this case since it had become a worldwide story. He told ABC7, Sadly, some treated this as if it was entertainment. It's not entertainment. It's a tragic life taken in a very brutal way. There's a lot of people involved, a lot of care and concern as well. But we've taken it very seriously, and our goal is to be able to preserve evidence until it gets to trial. During the same month, prosecutors said that a significant amount, more than 40 terabytes, of child sex abuse material had been found on David's phone, computers, tablets, and iCloud. Because of how much was found, prosecutors advised that this might slow the progress of the case. Therefore, the judge agreed to postpone the hearing because of this added evidence. The most recent hearing was scheduled for June 2026.
A makeshift memorial started by one of Celeste's neighbors still sits outside of her family's home. There are photos of Celeste surrounded by flowers, stuffed animals, toys, and candles. Behind everything is a sign that reads, "Justice for Celeste Rivas." Neighbors, friends, and family use it as a place to pay their respects or leave little tokens for Celeste. The neighbor who created the memorial told KCRA News, "This memorial is about Celeste and her legacy and her impact."
Don't forget to follow us on social media at the Murder Diaries Pod. We're everywhere, like I say every week. Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, where you can watch DocuFile's full episodes, like they're recorded. And starting in August, you'll be getting full episodes of our tragic Hollywood segment. So go subscribe, go watch us, and listen to us at the same time. Don't forget our schedule is Mondays, Tragic Hollywood, Tuesdays, DocuFiles, and Thursdays, a true crime case that needs your attention. Thanks for being here. And until next week,
Stay safe.
bye.